All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A. I am not, as the original schedule said, down in Capital Cigar for the Pete Johnson thing, but I had something come up, so I couldn't quite make it down that way. So today I'm just coming to you live from the backyard again, but now finally we're away from, now that the weather's a little bit warmer, we're right around 60 degrees. I don't have to be hidden in a corner with a big heater blazing on me. I can now, be a little bit more comfortable. So what's going on? How you all doing? How has your week been? Everything been good? We've been hanging out here. I'm back from my trip across the country, still back here in Baltimore. So it's lovely. It's lovely. Finally went to Chicago, Vegas, Salt Lake City. Mom, how are you, man? Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Nice to have you back again today, this afternoon. So today we're going to be talking about, since we were going to do the Pete Johnson thing, now we're going to do Pete Johnson still, but we're going to use the cigar from the PCA 2023 by Tatuaje PCA. Good to see you, man. How are you doing? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so I'm outside, but I thought, you know what, we need to get some what do you call it? I need to get some some fire going on. I finally have gotten myself a chimenea. Right, look at that. There we got a chimenea. So I got me some fat wood. So I'm going to put the fat wood in the chimenea, and hopefully that we'll light that up and get it rolling. We're going to get it rolling, rolling, rolling. And I've got the lightsaber here. I should like this, but that'll just take some time. This way we have to get it rolling here, right? So we've got the fat wood. Oh, okay. Now the fat wood has been sitting in the garage for quite a while, not in any kind of protective environment, just kind of sitting there. So we've hopefully it'll catch. Now this wood I harvested from Matt's house. He called me up. He's like, "Hey man, my neighbor's my neighbor's tree fell, and if you want some wood, then you come grab some." And I was like, "All right, let me come down and come and got some wood." And I was burning a fire the other night, and the wood looked fairly dry, even though the tree had just kind of fallen. It had been kind of barren for a while. But when I was burning it, I think there's still a bit of, I think it still needs a little bit, maybe another year, full year of seasoning would be better, because it was getting pretty smoky at first. So you know how it is if you got something wood that's a little bit wet, it smokes up a lot, and then once it gets really going, it then will get better, right? The smokiness doesn't. So we're getting a lot of smokiness from the the fat wood. Hopefully the fat wood will catch some of this wood in there. I probably should have loaded up more. I do have some kindling. Let me see if I can get a better shot of this here. We can change angles, right? I wish there was a way to on StreamYard to change the angles a lot faster. So here we go. There it is. You can see in there. Look at that. So hopefully it'll catch soon. The fat wood does give a lot of black smoke. All right, let's switch that camera back. Back to the front camera. There we go. Much better. Much better. So good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. I am getting some stuff here together for today's presentation. So what do we have here? We've got while the fire's going, I've got some stuff to set up here and get all pleasant for you. We're going to make some coffee. So if you've been watching, for those who've been watching the morning show the last couple of days, you'll be familiar with this coffee. We're going to be using the, the Ducamo Rumudamu from Ethiopia, from our friends at Diabense, and of course roasted by John Piquet at Cafe de Bola. So what we've got here, I've got our pre-ground, right? John would be very upset with me. And we're going to use our little stove. I've got the camp stove here. Let me bust this out here. So we've got our MSR camp stove, and we're going to put that down. And then I've got the MSR. This is our MSR, yeah, MSR titanium kettle. Actually, I probably filled it too much. We're going to put that down there. We're going to turn it on and give it some gas. Whoa. We're going to give it a nice, robust burning. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can get a little better view of it here. All right, look at that. Look at that. It's burning well. It's burning well. This is a little portable camp, camp stove that works fairly well. Really nice and compact. Delivers a lot of heat from the butane canister. And then what we're going to do is we're going to brew it in since we're doing the outdoor thing, we're going to be a little bit rugged today. We're going to brew it in our Stanley pour over with the internal filter. Now, it is about 60 degrees, so these steel pieces are getting pretty cold. Oh, Craig's with us. What's going on, Craig? How are you? Won't be able to join y'all? All right. Go out, have a good time out there, enjoy yourself. Enjoy. We'll miss you, but glad that you checked in. And then George says, I thought you were at Capital Cigar tonight regardless. Yes, I was planning on it, but unfortunately I was just not able to make that happen today. Had some things we needed to do, so I was not able to get down there in a timely manner. So we're burning a fire. We're trying to. I'm not having very good luck at starting it tonight. My fat wood is not. What I need to do is to get more kindling in there. Take that out. See if we can get that to burn better. All right, that looks like it's starting. Hopefully that'll work. All right, all right. All right, while that's starting up here, let me adjust this a little bit. It's a little bit cool, but not too bad. Once the fire gets rolling, once the coffee and the water gets boiling, we should be good to go. But I did get some things here to share with you from my trip to the Eclipse in Pennsylvania. On the way back, I found this dealer, a still dealer, and was able to get this axe. So I finally got me a nice axe. This is the Stihl Ochsenkopf, right? Forestry axe. And I bought this one. It's a smaller axe, right? It's not a maul for splitting wood, because in the woods over here the trees are like pretty small. So as I was using my hatchet to cut through wood that is mostly like this size, I was like, it's a little bit much for this, right? But this should do well for it. Right? I was like, oh, this is nice, and still it's pricey, of course, for what it is, but and you can get better deals. Like the Fiskars are going to be a lot cheaper and just as good. But I like the quality of the Offsenkopf, and I thought that I would get this one. But now that I got some other wood, I realized that I've got these bigger pieces now that are like this big, and the forestry axe is not very good for splitting that. That for those you need the maul. And it's like, should have bought a maul. All right, looks like we're ready to go with our coffee. So it's boiling. We can turn that down. We'll turn that off completely. We've got our brewer here. I've got the Ethiopia Dukamarumudamo already pre-ground in a medium grind setting. So we're just going to put that in here. And as you can see, there's the coffee. Looks pretty good. And now we're going to brew. We're just going to put it in there. We're going to put it. What I'm going to do, maybe I'll do a little bit of heat into the thermal cup. Let that get a little bit hot. And then now let's brew the coffee. Let me just adjust here so you can see it. Whoops. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to brew. Now the MSR doesn't pour with as much precision as we're used to, but I'm just gonna pour it in there, heat it up a little bit, let it do its thing. The fire is catching, great. And it looks like it's brewing. I think that maybe we need to open the lid to get more airflow. That pours a lot better. As you can see, the displacement is now open, whereas when the lid is on, the displacement is closed. So pouring is a lot different, but of course, you're getting the steam burning your hands. All right, I think that's going to be just the right amount of water. So we're going to let that do its thing. Oh no, we're still, it's still got some time. Maybe a little more volume. When you're out camping, you don't necessarily have to, I mean, you can be as precise as you want, but sometimes compromises can be made to your technique because, depending on your circumstance. Now, this one is kind of brewing pretty slowly. Don't know why. Oh yeah, the fire is burning well. It doesn't look like it's smoking as much as it did the other day. I'll get back to that as soon as we're finished the brew. But wow, the brew has kind of stalled. Pump it harder. Oh no, it's actually almost to the top. We gotta stop soon. Yeah, it's almost to the, there's a line in the cup that kind of tells you the full height. So we're almost there. All right, that's kind of it. We'll put that back here. And then we've got our cup now. Our cup is ready to go. The nice thing, this also has a lid, so if you want to put the lid on to help hold thermal stability, that is possible. And it's ambidextrous, so the lid has a little bit of a notch here, right? And so you can put it this way or this way, depending on how you want to hold on to your coffee. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, here we go. Here, so you have a look here now. The fire is rolling, so it's doing pretty well. We're getting good flame now. Oh, goodness. All right. So how's everyone doing? Everything's going well? If you're outside, let me know what you're smoking, what you're drinking, the usual kind of deal here. I'm interested to know the fire's going well. As you can see, there's a nice glow on the face. We've got our Ethiopia Rumudamu. Ooh, nice and like light fruitiness. Mm, pretty hot. That's good. That's good. Nice. Nice. Different character than how we've been brewing it the last couple of days on the morning show. In the morning show, we've been doing, let's pull up here a little bit. On the morning show, we've been doing, what kind of brew? We've been doing the, what do you call it? The siphon brew, which is totally different. You totally get different characteristics out of coffee. And yeah, it's a nice way to go, but it is a little more technically oriented. This is a little bit more simple, kind of set it and forget it. We're not really giving too much attention to it. And the fire is going very nicely. I'm very pleased. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. All right, so tonight's cigar, since, like I said, we were planning on going to the event at Capital Cigar. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to make that work. So here I am. But I thought, let's bump up one of the cigars that we were planning to do in a couple weeks to now, because, since it was going to be a Pete Johnson show, let's do a Pete Johnson cigar. And for that, I have the PCA 2023 from Tatuaje. This is a cigar that was released last year during the PCA show, or I guess it was announced. Every year they do these. Is it PCA or TCA? Yeah, PCA. PCA. So we're going to have this cigar tonight. Let me just get it out of its wrapper. This particular cigar, looks like I picked up, I don't know where I picked up, but it was like $18. So, you know, as far as the boutique cigars in the boutique world, that's pretty much the price point that we see a lot of, you know, upper 15. This is a Toro. That's not, is it a Toro? It's a pretty thick, I don't think it's Toro. Actually, I can't even see anymore. I guess it is a Toro. It's a pretty thick cigar. And it's kind of dark now, so I really can't see too much, but the wrapper feels nice. There's a very, there's a hay, kind of light manure. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. So I do have the score sheet. We're going to use that. And George says that he's outside on the balcony in shorts with an H-Upman Heritage. Excellent, excellent. By AJ and some Gatorades. Oh, Gatorade Zero. This is the second week that you have shied away from libations. What's going on there, my friend? What's going on? I guess as we get closer to the end of the year, you don't want to. I was looking online last night. One of my friends, she was like, "Hey, I'm interested in like teaching." doing more teaching. She kind of does substitute teaching right now, and she works for one of the local private schools. And she was asking, "Well, what about this other private school? A private school here called Friends?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I know some people there. I'll ask them." And so I asked them. They're like, "Oh, there's a whole like website you can go and see what jobs are available." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's go check it out." And I told my friend to go check it out, and there's a lot of jobs available. I was like, there's actually a couple. I was like, that might be kind of fun to do. And there was some kind of like assistant director for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was like, well, I could probably do that job. I'm a pretty diverse guy. And then they had some summer camp positions, and I was thinking, oh, summer camp might be better because less commitment. I don't really go anywhere in the summertime. I don't do much traveling in the summer, so I thought, So I think it was June 17th to August 9th. And they had like art teacher, theater teacher, and I was like, maybe I should go for that. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. All right, so we've got a relatively lighter color, and we got manure, barnyard, hay, and I'm going to say the fragrance wise is pretty medium plus. And then we have our cold draw to check out. Let's go check out our cold draw. I think we're getting a little bit low on the lighting. Huh? Am I getting too dark for you guys? Let me know. Let me know. If so, I can go harvest. I have some lighting that I can use, I think. That will help. All right, so let's bust out our cutting now. Busting out the polio tool that Craig sent over. Thank you, Craig. Even though I know you're out and about, I wonder where Craig is off to. Is he off on a date? Is he partying? I wonder. I wonder. It's a little bit of a different story than last Thursday when I was still in Salt Lake City, because in Salt Lake City it was only 6 o'clock when we started the show. So it's still the middle of the day there. Here we're right on the cusp. We haven't reached that summer solstice where the time is like the daylight is until 9:30. Easy draw, nice draw. Huh. On the tongue, the cold draw gives some characters of matcha powder. Hmm. I would say matcha powder is the most dominant feature of this. All right, so less light. We got my pen is flying. We've got our lightsaber back. Ooh, easy to light one. And this thing is like ridiculous. I think I saw something on Instagram by this company that they're finally working on a longer one that's like maybe 4 feet long. That will be crazy when that happens. Mm. That was fairly easy to light. Actually, very easy puffing, very nice. I think I am getting kind of dark in here, aren't I? Let me grab something. I'll be right back. We're gonna put you into the programming of the fire while I go run around and pick up this light. All right. I think we're back. One of the problems that I have with this fire is that I don't have any fire tools, so I can't really adjust too much. I could adjust a little bit of it, but I think it's okay for the moment. But I do have my light source. Oh, that needs to be charged. Good thing I brought a battery pack out here. There's always something, there's always something that challenges the spirit. Whoa, why is that not working? It's only flashing. Oh, maybe it really needs time to charge. All right, we'll give it a few minutes while it charges, and we'll continue with our cigar. So, George, how's that HMN coming along for you? This starting out really nicely. Great draw, nice flavor, good complexity, some spiciness, and wow, quite nice. Yeah, that's very pleasing. It's very nice. Never had a bad one. Oh yeah, I guess AJ Fernandez is really good at making nice cigars. I don't really know. Whenever I have cigars, I don't really know if they're AJ cigars or not. I'm not as well versed as the rest of you guys on knowing all the different brands. I think I need to turn some of that wood. Grab my hatchet. It's a little bit better. Yeah, last week we had to be in an undisclosed location. They have rather draconian laws in Salt Lake City. Maybe we just sit closer to the fire to get better coloration. How about now? This is how enough charge on it now. Huh, better. Okay, it hasn't really turned down intensity. Whoa, oh mama. Okay, so that's the lowest power setting. Oh, much better. What if I? Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, that's better. All right, that looks better, right? Somewhat better. Gotta say, this is starting out really, really well. I'm really surprised. Great complexity. It's really nicely balanced, good spice. Like it's interesting. So it's not like a peppery spice. It's more like a allspice, a little hints of cinnamon, nutmeg, but it's starting off very strong. I'm really, really, actually, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. It's not coming off with a lot of power. It's just coming off with a beautiful complexity, beautiful draw. It's a little, if it's a Toro, it's a little bit on the thicker side of Toros, right? It's fairly thick. Like, but it's not. It's got a great flavor. Like, really, I want to suck on this more. Like, I want to just keep on puff, 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 puff. So it's a little bit kind of crazy in that respect. Yeah, and that you want to just puff on it really hard and just to enjoy the flavor. One thing about my fire, it's not really burning flamey, flamey. It's just kind of a little bit of flamey, but it's not like the logs are really catching. Hmm. Wow, nice. There's a little bit. That last puff got a little bit on the warmer side, so it's kind of the cigar telling me that maybe you need to slow down a little bit with the puffing. Don't puff on it too hard. Maybe you're puffing too hard, and you're getting more heat that's going to build more acridity into your smoke. Let's have a taste with our coffee, which is an Ethiopia Rumidamu, which is really hot still. It's one of those times when like you pour and you get a lot more liquid on your palate than you were expecting. Ooh. So how's your week, guys, been? Everything been good? My week has been pretty good. I flew back Saturday night and Saturday afternoon. I left Salt Lake City at 2:45. That was the flight time. Flew to Denver, and I hadn't been to Denver in a little while. And there they built on the United. There's like three concourses: A, B, and C. United takes up all of the B concourse, and it's pretty big, right? It has extensions to it, and I guess they told me about last year or a year and a half ago they opened a new extension to it. So it's even longer and really pretty. So it's like really pretty, and then they've also done a facelift on the terminal, so it's a little more modern looking, which I thought was really curious because I remember this airport opened in 1995. So prior to 1995, all the Denver flights went through Stapleton Airport. And essentially in 1995, overnight they opened the new DIA, the one that we fly into now. Basically, from what I remember, they had operations running at Stapleton. Last flight left, everybody jumped in their vehicles and trucked everything the 25 miles outside the city to the new airport. And the next day, ground operations started and they started rolling at the new airport. And I remember that airport opened because, I was already flying by then. And back then, that was the same year that they started flying the 777 Boeing. And I remember I was on a flight from Denver to Baltimore on a 777 that I guess they had to move it for some reason. And I don't remember if it had been released or not yet, but basically they normally fly like 737s or smaller jets, 321s from Denver to Baltimore. Because Baltimore, we don't have 150 people, 175 people. That's probably the max. We don't really have flights that need 300 people flying to Baltimore. So, but I guess they needed to move this plane, so they flew us in this 777. We were almost like maybe there were 50 people on board the plane at the most. And it was funny because like the galleys, how they have the trolleys for the galleys that have all the food. Well, the galleys were empty. They had no food on the flight. They had no drinks. So we had to fly back, but it was like, oh, it's kind of cool to fly in this brand new plane that had just entered service or was about to enter service. So that was kind of a treat. But now it's kind of strange to think that nearly 30 years later, like I have been alive long enough for them to have built a new airport, opened it, it's state of the art, and then it has now become to the point where it needs a facelift. It's like, wow. It's kind of weird, when you think about it, you're like, wow, we've been alive for such a long time. I guess this is how, our parents and our other forebearers felt over their lifetimes. You're like, wow, they see so much change. When you're 20 years old, you don't really see that kind of change. Like you don't notice so much. But to look back upon it now, it's like, wow, this is very, very interesting. And I was just reading an article today that people are working on methods to eventually reach warp speed. I was like, what? Warp speed? It was like, wow, man. And then, like, these guys are making these lightsabers. I mean, eventually they'll get there. Eventually they'll develop light speed. It's kind of like, it's probably one of those things where we just have a seismic jump. Like, if you can imagine, like 100, well, maybe not 100 years ago anymore, but 100 years ago in 1924, cars were still relatively new, right? I think the car first came out in like the early 1900s. So imagine, it's like the iPhone. The iPhone came out in 2007. 14 years later or 15 years later, wow, it's like it's advanced a little bit. I mean, it's still the basic iPhone. But to go from like dial-up to iPhone was seismic, right? And now, we went from like riding in buggies at the late 1800s to flying to the moon in 75 and 80 years. I mean, and we've been thinking like, sometimes I think like, oh, we've been flying for 100 years. How come we're not going faster? But I think it's one of those things where it just kind of you just kind of progress and then suddenly it will jump. George says, look how far cell phones have come. Absolutely. I remember the huge bag phone. Actually, I had a bag phone back in the late 80s. I had the big Motorola that you pulled out of it. You had this antenna. You're like, hello? And it was corded. That had a battery on it. I also had one in the car. And then I bought the Motorola brick, the long one, like this big, the kind of like light gray. That was pretty awesome. It was like, I'm big man on campus now. I got nowhere to call, but a big man on campus. Yeah, those are fun times. Fun times. I mean, yeah, we've had so much progress. And now to think that, the young of today will live to see people land on Mars, or maybe beyond. It's like, wow, I kind of wish I was younger. All right, so how's our cigar? We're going along. First third is going off nicely. I'm quite enjoying this cigar. Actually, it's quite comfortable out here. I could probably go to bed. My fire is not burning. I don't know what happened to it. It just basically has just kind of petered out. I should probably turn it or something, add more wood to it. Maybe I'll go add some more wood. Let me go look at some more wood. Leave you here with a view of the fire while I go hunt for more wood. Oh, yeah. That is not ready for prime time. All right. I had put some smaller pieces in there. Hopefully, that will get us better results. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's starting to spark it up a little bit more. So hopefully that'll catch a nice fire. I think it's time to tap that a little bit. Oh, yeah, this is very nice. It's very nice out here. George, we do have nice weather tonight. Some nice weather. I'm enjoying it. The interesting thing, so I was in, like I said, I was in Salt Lake City. And prior to Salt Lake City, I was in Vegas. And on the between, I drove from Vegas to Salt Lake, which turns out to be a good 6 hours. Pretty long, maybe 7 hours, depending. It actually took me probably closer to 12 because I stopped in St. George to visit some friends for a few hours and check that town out. And it's interesting because I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but they took me to a butte. We're overlooking the city. And of course, it's a big Mormon area, right? So there's a lot of Mormon churches everywhere. The Mormon churches, you can always tell by the spires. They have these particular style of white spires. Regardless of the building, it seems like they always have this particular spire. And I remember I was looking across the looking across the town, and I was like, it just reminded me of something. It felt familiar because it reminded me of being in Saudi Arabia, where in Saudi Arabia, there are mosques everywhere. In all the neighborhoods, there's a local mosque. And, of course, in Muslim countries, they have call to prayers 5 times a day. They don't really have call to prayers like that in the Mormon world. But I just thought, as I was looking at it, it was familiar to me because I was like, wow, there's so many similarities, between religions. And I thought that was interesting. And so it's interesting because I was like, before that, I was in Las Vegas. And the reason I went to Las Vegas was to attend a show. Oh, here, George says, whoop, 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 whoop. George says, I wouldn't mind 10 degrees warmer. That would be very nice. But it's far better than, yeah, absolutely. Much, much better than January. But so I went to the National Association of Broadcasters show, which is all about production and broadcasting. And I took a break, sat down on one of the communal tables, and I saw these, I don't know if they were a couple. I think they were just two friends, young black kids sitting at the same table, just kind of chilling. And I just noticed their tag, their badge, and it said their name, of course, and it always says the organization. And it said they were from Oral Roberts University, and I was like, huh, black kids at Oral Roberts University. I gotta ask about that. So I asked. So I said to a black girl and a young black man, and I said, hey guys, hope you don't mind me asking, but what's it like at Oral Roberts University? And turns out the girl is American, so she grew up in America. Obviously, she came from a rather affluent family. The guy, however, her friend, was from Nigeria. It was a, I guess what we call exchange to international student from Nigeria. And he was like, "Oh, I'm from Nigeria." And I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." So it's going to be a little bit. His experience could be a little bit different. I was just kind of like, "What's it like?" I mean, like, I don't know. I do have this impression that you go to the South and it's all just like craziness. Like I'm worried to go to the South. Like, but they were like, "Oh no, no, it's not that bad. It's not bad like that." And I was like, "Okay, I'm just curious to know. I'm just always interested to hear people's perspectives on things." So I thought that was kind of an interesting discussion. And then, because Oral Roberts is a Christian university, and I said to him, what's interesting about the Christians? We started talking about the Abrahamic religions, and I was like, well, I mean, and she had the belief that I've heard a lot of people say that Muslims don't follow the same God. And I was like, I don't think that's really true, because from what I've gathered from people that I've talked to, from some of the reading that I've done, it's like Jews, Muslims, Christians, Catholics all believe in the same God. The God that we all believe in is the same God. The big difference between the three religions is that Christianity, Catholicism are the only ones that actually believe in the Holy Trinity, that God is of three, which I believe that both the Jews and the Muslims see that as heretical and polytheistic. So, because to them, Jesus is a prophet, a man, not God, not the embodiment of God. So as we got to this discussion, like the boy, he's kind of open. He was like, yeah, and the girl had the impression. Again, the girl had the teachings of that I've heard before. I'm Catholic, right? So as being Catholic, I've been told by many Christians that Catholics are not real Christians, and I was like, huh, all right. And their big thing is that you Catholics pray to Mary and Joseph or to saints, and that is somehow heretical. And I was like, well, I said, perhaps, but I said to her, I was like, well, you do realize that had it not been for Catholics, there would be no Christianity. And she was like, oh no, that's not true. I was like, well, you have to go back to the Bible, to the history. I was like, but I was like, oh, interesting, interesting. And I was like, all right, well, think about it. How would you have, how would any of the schisms happen had they not been Catholic? Like when Martin Luther left, and then when, what's his name, King Henry VIII left. Prior to that, they all answered to the Pope. But I was like, all right, well, have a great day. I think she was rather upset. I was like, well, you can read about it. And the interesting was that the boy who's from Nigeria, who has a lot of Muslim friends, he was like, well, he was actually kind of arguing with her because she was like, she had the very, evangelical viewpoint. And he was like, well, I know a lot of Muslims. They're not like that. I was like, I know. That's what I'm saying. That little bit of extra wood has really helped stoke the fire. Like my shins are getting a little bit warm. Like you, George, I'm just sitting out here in shorts. I have my boots on, which could be melting. My big old muck chore boots. I've been planning on buying another pair, right? Because the chore boots that I have, they're great. These, if you ever heard Muck Boot Company, the boots are fantastic. I've been using them all winter, and I really love them. They're easy to slip on and out of, and they're comfortable. They're waterproof, and they got great grip. But the thing is, sometimes your feet get kind of warm because there's a lot of insulation. So I was thinking I need to get shorter ones, lighter ones for the summertime, so I can still have the pleasure of these slip-on boots in the summer. Problem is, the ones that I bought were size 12. I'm normally like a 10, 11, 11 and a half. I bought the 12 because, these boots that I have, they run up the calf almost, they run up far up the calf, right? Almost to your knees. And, you need to get around them. And so I was like, well, I bought the 12s because they're easier to get in and out. I tried the 11s when I bought them, and they were snug. And I was like, I just need to be more comfortable. But now that I'm going to go and the thing about these 12s that, in my feet are very, depending on the socks, they're kind of floating. But because the boots run up the calves, it holds everything together. So it doesn't float. But with the shorter boots, I'm thinking about the Chelsea boots. I need to have it more snug to the foot, otherwise it'll just be flopping around. And if you ever wore shoes that were flopping around, it really becomes uncomfortable after a while, and you get like bad ergonomics and all that. And I was like, ah. So I've been trying to find size 11s. They only do like mediums and they only do whole size. They don't do half size. So I need to find 11s. And I've been trying to find 11s locally at different dealers, like different Dick's. They say Dick's is a dealer, but nobody has size 11s in stock in anything. So I was like, ah. So I was at Bass Pro Shop today. Luckily, they had the mid cut tour boots and 11, so I got to try those. You know, and I think that the fit's a slightly snug, but I think that if I was to get the Chelsea cut boot, I think it's gonna be just right. Like I'm like, now I feel comfortable ordering that. Oh, Mark's with us. What's going on, Mark? Without Catholicism, Renaissance art would be landscapes, and that would be it. I mean, because of Catholicism, we have like fruit paintings. Which reminds me of a meme that I saw that was kind of funny. Like we talk about this meme was kind of, I forgot the way they worded it was much cleverer than I'm going to tell you right now. But they were talking about, the meme talked about how someone's complaining about how everyone's like taking all these food pictures and all these pictures of food, and back in the day nobody did that. But then you look at the paintings and there's a lot of paintings of fruit and food, which is a greater commitment, I think, because you're going to sit there and like make an oil painting of a basket of fruit. Takes hours, I'm sure. It takes hours. So we're past the first third. So let's do some evaluation on this first third here. I think it's been very good. Like I've really been enjoying it. So I'm going to say 8.5 for flavor, 8.5 for body. The body has been more medium in fullness rather than being heavy. It's been medium, but it's been very good. Like qualitatively very good. This really enjoyable. So the NAB show was in Vegas. Of course, it was at the Las Vegas Convention Center. If you've ever been there, it's a very large venue, and it takes up one, two, essentially three halls, because one of the halls, the north, is it the north hall, the south hall is two levels. So it's like both levels. You're like, oh man, this is a lot of walking. Like it's just walking and the west. And it also takes up the west center. So the north center that they normally use for part of the show is closed for the next 2 years because they're renovating it. So at the west, the central, and the south, two levels of the south. So essentially four halls. And it's just a lot of walking, just a lot of walking. But here's the strange thing. It's like I can walk and walk and walk and walk in these shows, and I've only got like 13,000 steps. And it just is like frustrating because I'm like, I thought I'd be walking like 20, but I'm only at like 10. It's terrible. It's terrible. Mark says that I always thought paintings of fruit were studies of shape and light. Well, yeah, but maybe they were just excited about the food. Sometimes I don't know. It could. I think at art school it definitely is like that. I did not take painting when I went to art school. I just took design and photography. Now's the time when I really wish I had the tools for the fireplace, because I would love to stoke the fire and move some of the logs around. However, I don't have any of those tools. I did just order some from Temu. Temu has, that Temu. I don't know what quality I'm going to get, but the deals are like crazy good. Like $6 for poker, $10 for little like tongs. I was like, huh, I better get some of those things. No, I have not talked about the coffee show. I'm kind of working my way backwards. Right? I went to Chicago I went to Vegas, and then I went to Salt Lake City. I didn't really talk much. I did a little bit of Salt Lake, but we can talk about the coffee show. Coffee show was really good. It was being held at the McCormick Center at the Lakeside Pavilion, which is the original hall for McCormick. Took up pretty much the entire main floor of that. I don't think that side has a secondary floor. There is another part of McCormick Center that has two floors, because I went to the National Restaurant Show one year there, and I was like, okay, I walked the entire show floor. I was like, gosh, there's a lot. And then I noticed there's stairs, and I was like, oh my God, there's a whole nother floor. I was like, this is terrible. It just takes a lot of stamina. But the coffee show is good. I've been going there. I've been attending the coffee show every year since 2003. I've only missed 2 years, one for the pandemic when they shut it down. And then the year after, then the next year they had it in New Orleans, but that was just a fiasco. Like they just did it because I guess they had to do it. Almost nobody went, almost no vendors were there. But I've gone back the last 2 years, 3 years, 22, 23, now 24, and back to full form. I think I heard they had something like 16,000 attendees, so it was pretty crowded. It's not as crowded as the NAB. NAB's 60 to 70,000, but it's a much bigger show. And then, but it's always a good show for me because I think it's just interesting to see what the new products are, as well as what see friends. Like I've been in the business long enough that I've got friends now all across the industry. Some I own who I only get to see at the show, and so it's great to walk around and hang out with them and talk, and which also means that you walk, you talk, you hang out, and then you walk some more, you talk some more, you look at product, you keep walking, you see some friends, and you talk, and it takes all 3 days to see the entire show. Actually, in the 3 days that I went, I did not see everything on the show floor because there's always parts that I miss. And so there's a lot of stuff in it. But, we tried to see it. There was some interesting stuff. The American Egg Board came out, and they had a booth there to promote eggs. Why they need to promote eggs, I don't know, because, it's not like people don't eat eggs in America, but there they are promoting eggs at a coffee show. And they had their innovation director come out and prepare he was preparing this Vietnamese egg cream coffee, which didn't have so much Vietnamese character. Like, Vietnamese is a little bit thicker. It's got a lot more, some viscosity to it. It's got sweetness. Basically, they took like cold brew coffee and put some ISI whipped flan on top of it, which is kind of fun. The idea behind what they're doing was just to offer recipes for a different approach to coffee. And so they made leche flan boba from the eggs. So they had egg boba, which was kind of interesting. The cold brew that mixed it with didn't really have much going on for it to really make it exciting, but just the idea of it is like, oh, that could be something to work on. So it's just more like, as springboards of ideas. And tried a bunch of coffees, went to a bunch of coffee tastings, a lot of nice stuff out there. One of the things, though, is like you go to these, and you'll see some of the videos that I'm releasing now on the main channel. They're coming out. I'm working them daily now. So I've got, for the SCA show floor videos, they're going to come out relatively daily during the weekdays. So we started off, of course, with the egg board, and then the next was the Uganda, trying a coffee from Mount Elgin and Bugisu from Mountain Harvest Coffee Importers. Very nice coffee, really, really pretty. The next one, I think it came out today, was the Kopi Luwaks. We went to the next up was the Indonesia booth, and there they had wild Kopi Luwak. So the wild civet. This one woman, Juliana, is cultivating. I don't know. She's not cultivating, but it's wild Luwak. So they're just getting the wild turds, and surprisingly, it's delicious. It was good. It was really great. I really enjoyed that coffee. Much unlike any other luwak I've had in the past, which was always flat and boring and no dimension and just terrible. This was actually dynamic and interesting and fruity and tasty. And then the other coffee we tried was what I'm calling faux luwak. they call it enzymatic process. So it's opposed to, they found this producer, Ronnie, she found a way to mimic the bile, the enzymatic reactions that happen in the stomach of the civet cat to mimic the digestive tract. And so you can make luwak coffee without actually having anything to do with luwak or without anything to do with civets, which in many respects just means that it's a processed coffee. That's all. It doesn't really. It's a nice idea. It's a nice, you know, marketing thing to say that it's a luwak. But again, really pretty coffee, really nice, great tasting. I did a cupping with the Philippine Coffee group, which is always great to see those guys. And I helped them out with their cupping session, which turned out to be really pretty coffees. And they were featuring coffees, Robusto coffees mainly, from young producers that won their Young Producers Award. So these are all producers. There were 5 different coffees, 2 Robustas, 3 Arabicas. Some were natural, some were honeys. And the producers and they had to be between 15 to 25 years old. So really impressive results. Robusta is really starting to mature, getting better quality every year that I try them. Even my favorite producer in the Philippines, she's working on projects in 2 different parts of the country with a lot of Robustas, trying to bring the quality of Robusta up. So very interesting stuff. What else did we see? Saw this thing called the Sifonista. Is that right? Sifonista. It's basically the Tiger Corporation from Japan. The guys that make rice cookers. They have made a brewing device for the home that they're selling through Williams Sonoma for $500. It's supposed to be a mechanized mimicking of the siphon style brew. So they're using a vacuum pressure brewing system, but it's aided by pumps, so you can vary the brewing temperature to a certain degree to affect the flavor of the coffee. And they're using pumps to move it so that it does have some of the vacuum properties, but it uses the pump so they can change the temperature. Because when you're doing regular siphon, you really don't have much control over the the temperature, right? Because you have to have it to a certain temperature in order for it to operate. It's pretty interesting. They use a wire mesh filter. This video is coming out soon, but so it doesn't have the cleanliness. So one of the big things about siphon is that it's very clean flavors in the coffee, but that's because it uses this cloth filtration system that really removes the minor sediments as well as the essential oils out of the coffee, which makes it very clean tasting. This one does not do that. So it's kind of missing to my mind, one of the main points of siphon. So it's a little bit on the dirtier side, a little bit more like a French press rather than a siphon. And Mark's asking, did you get to experience the new fellow product? You know what? I did not. I did not. I don't normally. I almost never visit the fellow booth. Like honestly, I'm just not terribly interested. Like it's cute stuff. It's pretty. The stuff that I have used, like the Ode 2 grinder, I was very impressed by using it. I was like, wow, this is really nice. They do have that new brewer. I don't know how much that's going to cost, but I wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't like, I got to go check it out. It's a brewer. I've got, I've already got the Bonavita, the Olsen, and I've got now the Mocha Master. Do I need another one? Do I need to worry about another one? I'm not but I do think the Ode is very, very nicely done. Uh, I think the Stag Kettle is infuriating from my perspective of use. I don't like the jiggler that regulates the flow of the spout. Like I want my hand to be the regulation, not an orifice that's going to like prevent me. Because sometimes I want a kettle I can use for multiple options, right? So if I want to pour hard, I just want to do this. I don't want to do this and it's still coming out at. So I'm very like, again, I'm not really a fan of that. I did look at a bunch of other stuff like the I want to say the Thanos grinder, but it's not that. It's Zerno. I think it's called the Zerno. Begins with a Z, Chicago made, and it's very fancy. Big cylinder, fancy. Comes with a nice case. Comes with multiple bursts. Comes with all these accessories, and if you buy all of that together, it's like $2,200. So it's pretty pricey as far as grinders go, but the build quality looks nice. Design looks nice. Um, one of our one of the guys that comes to the morning show said he's got the first generation. He said it's awesome, so it looks like an awesome grinder. But I got to see that. That was really interesting. I got to see a bunch of other grinders. I went to see the new Time More. That's pretty interesting. Pete Licata was telling me more. He was showing me the new Mazur grinder that he worked on. Really interesting as well. Like the way that you can pull the front place off and to clean it and change burrs. Super, super simple, super nice. So much easier than the other Mazur stuff that they've had over the years that is just a pain to get into. What else did I see? The grinder wise. Oh, the Pheno grinder from Compact. That looks interesting. I'm working on a video right now where we were just playing around with the X54 grinder from Mazda. And that's one thing that these, I'm going to relight a little bit because I feel like it's getting a little bit it's going out a little bit. One of the interesting things that we're seeing a lot more grinders that are geared towards home users that can do a range from espresso to brewed coffee. And all of the ones that mentioned, the Zerno, the Time More, the Mazda, the Pheno, and now the X54, they all can do that. That's all geared towards the consumer, which is a great thing because it gives nice quality grinding for the home market at a fairly decent price point. Like I think the X54 is like $500. The Compact Pheno is somewhere around six or so. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe that's by wholesale price. I'm not sure. Um, you get to the other ones. The Zerno is more expensive. The Time More is like $800. That looks very nice. Um, the Mazda is like 1,100 or 1,200 euros. So that's going to be Mazda is always a little bit pricier. So it's nice to see that there's more options coming out for people. You don't have to just buy the Weber. That'd be crazy. Well, that was Brian with us. What's going on, Brian? How are you, man? And then George is on to the Neanderthal with some M10 electrolyte. What is going on with you, man? What is going on there? What other stuff did I see? One of the things that I did see that I'm personally interested in and excited about, I actually called him up and said, "Hey, man, I want to buy your product." There's this guy. His name is Young Ro. He's evidently a scientist from Dallas, and he was there on one of the small tables on the side with kind of like a really simple setup, and he had these brewers. I think this video comes out tomorrow, but there are these vacuum cold brew brewers, and they're basically like a siphon where you have two big orbs, right? Two orbs. They're separate. The top one has a stem where you put the coffee in, and what you do is you take the bottom section, you put a little bit of water, and then you boil the water. And what that boiling water does, it generates steam. And you could dump the water out if you don't want the water in there. And then the upper chamber has the coffee as well as a bunch of water. And evidently, it's better if you use ice water. So once you steam that lower chamber, you dumped out the excess water if you want to. You connect the two halves. And that steam, I believe as it cools, it creates a vacuum that changes the pressure by like 1,600%. And that vacuum is created. It sucks the cold water from the top orb through the stem of the top orb that has all the coffee and extracts the coffee. And then at the bottom of the stem, it comes out into the lower chamber. And that should take about 15 minutes. And just the idea of the technology seems very interesting to me. But he's kind of like this guy that just kind of doing it on his own. I think he doesn't really have a website. There's very little information on the internet about it. It's called the Vac Brute 2, if you want to look it up on your phones or your computer. And he's got a couple videos on YouTube. They're not very well done. They're all kind of older, like maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And there's like all he had was a business card. And a business card, there's no website, there's no nothing. It's just like, here's my email and here's my phone number. It's like, what is going on with this dude? So I called him up. I was like, hey man, this was yesterday. I was like, hey, I'm interested in your thing. And he's like, well, are you calling from Baltimore? I guess he looked at my number. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. He's like, well, I can deliver it to you. What? He's like, I have to be in Baltimore at the beginning of May, the second weekend of May. And I was like, oh, all right. Sounds good. So evidently we're going to meet. He's going to be in Baltimore for whatever reason. And he's going to bring the he's going to bring the two brewers that I ordered. When you watch if you watch the video, there's a really big glass one and there's a small glass one. I ordered the small glass one as well as the one that looks like a small clear French press. They also have a large version that's stainless steel for commercial use. Um, those are cool, but I think if you've been to the old Spro, we had those big brew towers for a cold brew, visually more appealing. I'm looking for something more visual, so I like the glass ones. Cigar's doing very well, by the way. We're almost to the point we got to pull the band off. Mark says, I wonder if I should place by Vario. Seems like I'll have a lot of, there's the choices coming out are wide. There's so many things in almost in any price point. As long as you're willing to spend like $500 and up, there are some great options. This X54, I'm working on the video now. I hope to have it finished tonight, uploaded, and then I think I'm going to release it as the main video on Saturday, because I don't have a main video for Saturday. I've been doing all these other videos, right? And so at the show, they were this company that's one of the distributors, Black Rabbit. I think it's Black Rabbit Coffee. If you want to buy that X54, they're going to run this special until the end of the year or end of the month. X54 is a 54 millimeter burr grinder, flat burrs, I believe. They have, and all the burrs that I've seen that are designed for both espresso and coffee have this one unique feature where they're kind of two-stage flat burrs. They got these weird scalloping and the burr pattern changes. Like if you can imagine the ring, right? This ring here, the outer ring has a different grooved teeth pattern than the inner side of the ring. So it can do the range of grinding. I'm going to remove the bands now because I'm going to be talking so much. They were going to. Oh, Mark has. Oh, I forgot you have one of those. Those are fun towers. I love those towers. I still have 3 of them somewhere. 2 of them in the house, and there's one floating somewhere. The big ones, at least. I think those towers are fabulous. I just was curious about this vacuum one because it's actually feeding to what I'm thinking for the next shop. But so the X54, we were playing with it. Nice grind quality. We were just pulling espresso shots on it. But I think it's like $500, 25% off. So they're going to run the special to the end of the month. So if you watch the video when it comes out, you'll see it. If you're interested, it's probably worth spending the money on. I think it's a really nice grinder, especially for home. And you can go the spectrum of brewed coffee to espresso. We pulled some really nice shots on it. And the only thing about this one, because it's geared for the home, so it's smaller, less power, but nice feature set, right? As far as programmability, it's got pretty much everything you need. The thing is that it's slow, right? Like to grind, let's say 20 grams of coffee for espresso took us roughly 11 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're grinding for in production at a shop, that's an eternity. Like that would just drive me insane. Like when Woodbury Kitchen opened in 2007, they got the Mazarconi for their espresso grinder, and Allie used to show it to me, and I would use it once in a while. But man, it was that slow. God, it was god awful slow. Like I just hated using that. And I'm glad that we use Mazda Majors and Compact K10s because they're just so much faster. So, but the quality of the grind is very nice. It's a nice quality grinder. The grind quality is good. The price is very reasonable. So if you're thinking about you want to get a grinder and you want to get one that's on a discount in the short term, that might be the one to look for. It's Black Rabbit is the company, and the X54 Malkonig. So very good quality. Matt also he bought the X54, he bought the 65, and then he bought the E80, which is the big one. And that big one is just a beast. It's a beast of a grinder. It's like $2,600, but it's a beast. Totally overkill for home use. But if you need to grind espresso in a commercial environment, man, that is solid, solid, solid grinder. Mark says that for the X54, I assume you can use a variety of burrs. There are so many burrs, and they influence. I don't know. I can't say with any certainty. I know that a lot of people want to move to SSP burrs. Um, I presume that SSP probably makes that size burr and I presume that Malkonig uses a certain a certain screw pattern on the burrs. I can only presume. That's something you'd have to ask someone that knows more about that. I tend not to pay too close attention to those things. Another thing that I thought was a couple other items I saw. My friend in Manila, she called me a few weeks ago, and she's like, "Hey, I just bought this roaster called the Nano 7 by a company called Cafe Logic from New Zealand." And I was like, "Oh," because she's planning on doing this particular type of coffee event. Then she wanted a small roaster, and this one really interesting roaster. I think the cost is $1,100, $1,300, somewhere right around there. And air roaster. It's got the app and all that. You can do all this. You can program like whatever profile you want. And the Ikawa it's kind of like the Ikawa Killer, I think. But unlike the Ikawa, which has a 60-gram capacity, this has a capacity that ranges between 50 to 200 grams. And I was like, oh, 200 grams. 200 grams for like 1,200 bucks. That's something that's interesting as far as grinders, as far as roasters go. So I was thinking, oh, that'd be kind of fun to have. Another thing that I saw that was really interesting to me, and I know you probably heard about this if you're following the coffee world and you watch all the other YouTubers. This is something I didn't really know about. I was standing on the show floor, and one of our viewers, a guy named Nick Nick Burr, Nick Boyle from Beverly Hills. He's a big fan of Hoon, and he evidently watches my channel as well. And he came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I watch your channel." I was like, "Oh, thank you very much." And he's like, "But I think you're wrong." I was like, "Oh, all right. Now we're getting somewhere." And he's basically was like, he's like, "I think there's a big difference between something like the origami and the April." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I get that." But he was also like, "You need to see this thing called the Meticulous." And I was like, "All right, so you need to meet Carlos, the owner." So he brought me over to the Meticulous booth, and I met Carlos. And if you're not too familiar, Meticulous is this startup espresso machine company based out of Mexico. I think he's based out of Puebla, and he's actually an industrial designer, and he created this machine. It's an espresso tabletop espresso machine that is supposed to mimic the pressurization of a lever espresso machine. And it's cool. It's cool. It's interesting, and there's programmability. There's temperature stability, and you add hot water to it, and then it heats the water to the right temperature, and then it mimics the way that the piston would work inside a lever machine. I mean, I just thought it was cool. So right now, if you can buy it, if you go to the Indiegogo page, it's like $1,300. If you wait until it gets released in July, it'll be $1,800. So if you're looking for a machine, that might be something interesting. It comes in black and white. The white one's kind of cool. I do wonder about like, what will the white look like after staining from coffee? Will it stain from coffee? Do I have to worry about that? But why I was thinking about all of these items is because, as I've been thinking more about how to approach the new shop that we're working on, there's the main thrust of the shop really is to do window service to offer brewed coffee and pastry to the the commuting customer. But I've really been thinking that I want to do like a studio setup where guests can come in and experience coffee in a different way than they've experienced it before. And this kind of thing can take different forms. And one of the iterations of this that I was thinking about is, what if we found really lovely coffee, right? And you come in as a guest and you sit down at the bar and we share the coffee with you, but now we share it to you from seed to cup, right? So, and with all this tabletop stuff, it's like, oh, I think there's definitely a pathway for this to happen. And this is just one idea. Like you come in, we share with you the green, you see what the green is like, and then we roast it right there. And then once it's roasted, we then brew it, and then you get to try it. And why this kind of thing kind of came out is my experiences over the last year. Like when I went to Bangkok in June or May, I stopped by a place called One One Coffee Roasters. And the Hong Kong barista champion, Don Chan, is the owner of this place. And you can see the video on the website, on the channel. That's been up there for a while. But he did essentially that. He's like, I want to make you a special coffee. And I was like, well, I'm happy to have whatever's on your menu. He said, no, I must make you special coffee. So he finds this coffee that he's planning to use for the competition that he's competing in, the World Championships that were in Athens last June. He's like, this is one of the coffees. I want you to try it. So he has an Ikawa. He went outside to roast some of the Ikawa and roasted the coffee fresh, then ground it. Then he put into his Flair 58, which is this tabletop lever espresso machine, and made for me what has been the best espresso I've had in 23 years of being in the business. So that's part of it. And then my friend in Manila, when she bought this Cafe Logic, she was like, this is what I'm planning to do. She's like, I want to roast it and then offer to the guest, because she's a producer. So she wants to showcase her best coffees to in a very special kind of pop up. And I was like, that might be one way to do it. And then I have all these other ideas of like how we would have done signature drinks and other kind of coffee interpretations over the years. But there's not really, like the Spro model didn't really offer a venue for that was readily available. And also when I was in Japan in June, I went to a place called Cocoon. Cocoon is this thing that one of my buddies, Hide Izaki, who is one of the world barista champions, and his girlfriend, Miki Suzuki, who is the Japanese barista champion, they have created this coffee experience in Japan, where basically you go, you're given an address, you're making a reservation, you're given an address, you go to this place, it's in Omotesando, it's really hard to find, like it's nondescript, it's off the beaten path, and you go there, and it's this whole environment they've created, and where they make the coffee for you is like a cocoon. It's a cocoon. It's kind of like you're climbing into like the Apollo capsule. Like, you have to climb through this like hatchy kind of thing. And you're like, what is going on here? But again, it's one of those, they do an omakase kind of thing where they're serving coffees, pairing them with wagashi, yeah, the little like different like types of pairings, like kind of mimicking what you get in like a green tea service, like a matcha service. You get the the wagashi with like, let's say like a rice cake or something with the green tea. They do something very similar with that. And then like taking some of those cues that we see from places like Alinea and Noma. And I think this kind of approach could be placed on the interior of this new shop. So it'll be reservations and appointments, something like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's what I was looking at, these different items at the show, just kind of with a thought in mind, like maybe I could utilize. But then I realized that, you know what, all these things like the Meticulous, the Cafe Logic, I don't necessarily need those. I actually have pretty much everything that I would need to do it tomorrow. I do have like a small La Valentina tabletop, E61 espresso machine. I've got the Quest M3 roaster. So it would just be like the difference would be that these are older pieces of machine, more steel, more silvery looking, instead of these black matte, like sleek looking modern pieces of equipment. But I do think that I need to get a grinder. So I'm thinking about which grinder would be good to use. I like compact. I work with compact a lot. So I'm currently leaning a little bit more towards the Fino. I haven't tried it. I will maybe go right up to New Jersey soon to go visit Josh, who's the U.S. manager for compact, and see what the grinders are like. Yeah, no, so it's been a nice exploration. And then when I was in Salt Lake City visiting my friend John Piquet, who owns Cafe de Bola, he's got a very specific style of delivery, right? Like if you want to try his special coffees, he has a menu, and his menu is like really progressive. There's like right now there's like four coffees ranging from $30 to $75. And they're all very rare coffees, very special coffees, very specially sourced. And he's interested because it's all made in the siphon brewer. He uses a modified Akira Koki grinder that has SSP burrs in it for their service. And he tells you specifically, like, if you want, come make an appointment, get a reservation. And if people walk in and they're like, oh, can we get a brewed coffee? He said, well, we only have brewed coffee in the siphon, and you also have to have an hour, because it takes an hour to drink the coffee there. He's very adamant about, like, he just won't serve you at all. Like, otherwise, I was like, oh, this guy's got some balls. Like, I'm pretty ballsy, I think, as far as an operator, but I'm like, this guy's got balls. Like, he tells them flat out no. I was like, and he's slightly rude about it. I was like, ooh, I like that. Like he's slightly rude, but he's slightly rude in a way that I would never be. Like I think it's a little bit too extreme for my personal approach. But I was like, oh, I was like, but you go there and you sit down. He shows you the coffees. He brews in the siphon, and he's talking about it. And in the video that I shot there, it'll eventually one of them will include pretty much that presentation, so that you get the feel for it. And so it takes a good 10, 15 minutes just to prepare the coffee. Then you want to wait 10 minutes for the coffee to cool, because if you might know, siphons are very hot brewed coffee. So the coffee is the hottest of any brewed coffee out there. So while other brew methods have cascading brews, like as we're brewing, like let's say this pour over, right? The temperatures of the water and the coffee is always declining. With siphon, it's always kind of like either at the same level of nearly boiling, or it's actually slightly increasing. Steven's with us. What's going on, Steve, man? Good to see you. How you doing? And Brian says, George, seriously, you're in shorts tonight? You're the last of the real men. You know what, man? I'm all, he's not the only one. Both of us. Here's some shorts, baby. Look at that. Shorts. Yeah, man, it's not too bad out here tonight. It's not too bad at all. So, you want to wait 10 minutes for the coffee to cool down to the point where you can taste it. I say hello to you, Steven. What's going on, Steven? Good to see you, my man. How's things in Arizona? Excellent, excellent. Welcome to the show. Good to have you. We are smoking the PCA 2023 from Tatuaje. It's been very good the entire time. I would say, actually, we have to do our second, third evaluation. Again, we have had very consistent results. I'm still at 8.5 for flavor and for body. Body, of course, has been more on the medium side. It's not a very forceful cigar like a lot of the other Tatuajes, like let's say like the Kohonu 2003, and like maybe the Avions and things like that are definitely more my forte, more forceful. These are definitely lighter in that respect. Well, I am wearing boots. I'm wearing my chore boots, so like pretty much my shins and all my calves are covered. So there's only only my knees are exposed. So, but it's not that cold outside. And I got the fire going, which is kind of going rather lightly, but it's burning beautifully. Like just very enjoyable. Like this is a very enjoyable. It's just nice blending of like light spices and just harmonious spicing. It's not like that. Like it's not like that. And I'm glad to be outside. It's nice to be outside. The weather's fairly decent. Instead of being inside a building again. But you sit there and you try these coffees at the Bola, and so it takes a good 40, 45 minutes to an hour to to have that experience. And it's a nice time to be had. And I think it is one of the few places that I would say is worth the effort to travel to try the coffee. Like there's only very few places that I think that are like that. Um, Cafe de Bol is one of them. Uh, Koana Coffee in the Big Island of Hawaii is another. Tim Wendelbo and also Norway, another place. And then of course Tokyo's got a bunch of places that are actually worth going to. That's got the most places that you can just go from shop to shop to shop. But of course, Cafe del Hambre in Tokyo is worth visiting. The Cocoon is worth visiting. Cocoon, though, I see more as a place that's like a Alinea. It's a cerebral coffee experience, an intellectual coffee experience. It's a place you go to experience a different level of coffee, not necessarily to dine. Mm. We're speaking of dining and Chicago. First day that I arrived in Chicago, what am I going to do? I want to go check out some things. When I went to Chicago in over a year ago, so the New Year's of 2023, December going in December 2022 into 2023, I went to a place. I was in Chicago and I was like for a couple of days because I needed to get more miles. And I was like, okay, I need to go and explore this thing called Italian beef. So I went to a whole bunch of places for Italian beef, Portillo's, Al's, and a couple other places. Al's I thought was the best. This time, I was like, I need to go check out. I find out where this place is. There's a TV show that I know Rusty's familiar with. Maybe you guys are familiar. It's called The Bear. It's on. I think it's on FX, right? And The Bear is about this chef Carmi whose family or his brother ran a place called The Beef. Like they do this Italian style beef, and the brother dies. Carmi comes home, takes over the business, and then over the first season, he's trying to work with everybody. That's all these crazy cast of characters. He wants to make them into a fine dining establishment. Season two, he makes it into a fine dining establishment, and they're trying to get it rolling. But that place is based on a real place called what's it? Number One Beef, and you can go there. First day I arrived, that's the first place I went. I was like, "What am I going to have for lunch? I'm going to go find this beef place." And it's right downtown. It's not hard to find. Looks like just in the movie in the TV show, you're like, "Oh, this is cool!" Like, and of course, very popular show. So there's a lot of people taking pictures there, a lot of tourists. But it wasn't hard to get in. I got there maybe 2 in the afternoon, so it wasn't the lunch rush. Maybe two or three people ahead of me. The dining room was not too hard to get a table or to get a seat at one of the tables. And if you're not too familiar with Italian beef is different than, like, let's say, Baltimore's pit beef, where they take the beef, maybe it's a rump roast, I don't really know what the cut is, maybe Rusty knows, but you take the beef and they are braising it. They braise it for a few hours so it's nice and soft, and it's, it's got this great gravy with it, and then they slice it, and I think they slice it and they keep it in the braise. And then when you order, they take it out of the braise and they put it on this crusty bread. And if you want to have giardiniera, which is like their sweet peppers, you get that, or you get cheese or whatever you want with it. And then if you want, they'll put a ladle of the jus, the braising jus, on top of it, so it's all like soaky. And then they give you French fries if you want. Their fries are delicious, like that, right? Proper double batch frying. And of course, they have Pepsi, which just is the worst. But they had Dr. Pepper, so but they didn't have Diet Dr. Pepper, so I had to go Diet Pepsi. But man, delicious, delicious, worth going to check out. And turns out, I was asking them, so they still shoot here, and they're like, yeah, they were. That I was there on a Thursday. They had just shot the company had been in town the week before to shoot on location in the space, and I guess they dress it differently. And I'm thinking, like, now we're already past season. They're shooting season 3. I think they were shooting pickups for season 3. When what those are basically, after they've shot the entire series, they sometimes will have to go back and do pickups, which are basically stuff they figured out. Oh, we need to shoot extra scenes or rewrite some of the scenes and reshoot them. And so they had to go back and do that. And I don't know what in the world they're going to do with this place, because, like, I mean, if you were to dress it like the fine dining restaurant that it is now in the story, you'd have to totally change it. And of course, they do all that on a stage somewhere else. My guess is that they were shooting exteriors, like, when the guys are taking smoke breaks outside. Steven says smoking the Arturo Fuente Chateau Sun-Grown Cuban Bellicoso. Oh, nice. How is that coming along? Very peppery, or is it not so peppery? But that Italian beef was very good, very very good. Prior to that, I thought Al's Italian beef was excellent, worth it. Then I went, and the Portillo's. Portillo's is famous because they have the beef, they have the hot dogs, but what they also have is their chocolate cake shake, where they make a milkshake, a vanilla milkshake, and they take a slice of chocolate frosted chocolate cake and they shove it in the cup and they stick blend it, like in one of the spindle blenders, like you'd make a milkshake out of it. And it is just decadent as all heck. Like, I ordered one. When I was there last year, I was like, I'm going to try it. I got to try it. I've heard so much about it. I got to try it. It is cloyingly sweet. It is horrible for your blood sugar. Like, I only had a couple sips. I was like, I can't eat any more of this. This is just ridiculous. It's just too much. It's just too much. If you're 20 years old, that's what you should order. But if you're over 50, you should not be ordering that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing that'll put you in the hospital. So, but Chicago is good. Like, it was a good time there. What else did I do? I ended up going to Chinatown a lot because the convention center is down by Chinatown. So it's just as easy to go there and have, like, really great Chinese food. Found a couple great Chinese restaurants. Went there with some friends and just kind of hung out, and dim sum and latsi chi chicken. Beautiful stuff. Just beautiful stuff. I don't really go to a lot of those, like, fancy restaurants anymore. Like, there was a time when I was trying to do a lot of those places, like Alinea, Ever, those kind of places are really high end fine dining joints. But I don't know. Nowadays, I'm just like, There was a Michelin star place that I was trying to go to. There's the first Michelin star Filipino restaurant in the country, a place called Kasama. They opened like at 9 a.m. I think it was Sunday, 9 a.m. Sunday. I took a cab over there, and the line was already like 2 blocks away. And I was like, I told the guy, I told the taxi driver, I said, forget this place, take me to Chinatown. I'm going to go have dim sum at Min Hing. I was like, forget that. I did go to I met the owner of another place, a Filipino coffee shop called Modern Coffee, and I went there Saturday morning. That was good. That was nice, nicely done, really pretty, nice coffees. But I really wanted to try this Kasama place, but I'm just not waiting in line like that. That's just too crazy. And I'm not going to go there at 7 a.m. to fall in line. Like, oh, no. One day, if that's meant to be, I'll go. Steven says that the Chateau Sun Grown is a little peppery and a good smoke. Okay, excellent. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. How's that Neanderthal working out for you there, Mr. George? My Tatuaje PCA 2023 is very solid smoke. Been really great balance, nice complexity, a little bit spicy, but not too heavy, right? Not too heavy. You know what I smoked the other day when I was out here a couple days ago with the fire? I picked up when I was at Widmer's some of the new versions of the PBR cigar, their 1975 series Privada Maduro. And years ago, that SP54, the box press 54 Toro, was one of my favorite cigars. Like just beautiful complexity, just nice, light spice, just beautiful cigar. And this is supposed to be the replacement for it. Sadly, nothing like it. Like it's a completely different smoke, different experience. I I'll be honest, I didn't really like it very much. I was pretty sad that I had that experience. I was like, oh man. I don't know what changed. I presume the entire blend has changed. It just wasn't as satisfying. So, oh, what a shame. What a shame it was. But c'est la vie, c'est la vie. So that's pretty much everything that I did in Chicago, the show. Like I said, I went to NAB, saw a bunch of stuff. The interesting thing about going to NAB is that it's a very overwhelming show. I've been there, this is my third year going, and the last 2 years were definitely kind of still overwhelming. The first year for sure, second year still pretty much. This was the year that I was there, and I was like, I felt in control, meaning that I was like, I wasn't like, oh, I need to buy that, I need to buy that, I need to buy this, I need to buy this. I was like, I got everything I need. I'm in the middle. I've got good control of my craft now. I only need certain things. And I did buy some stuff there at the show, things that I really have been thinking about buying for the last couple of years. I was like, okay, I need this, I need this. And so that turned out to be another good experience. But the trip itself was like very good. 10 days away, which for me is not terribly long, but by the time that I was on day 4 and I was heading to Vegas, I was like, man, I could go home. Like, I'm ready to go home. I hadn't traveled anywhere since my Asia trip in June. So I've been home since June. From June to, April, I'd been home. So I'd been home for like a very long 10 months. And I was like, wow, I was very comfortable. Didn't really feel like the tug of like having to go anywhere. So, it felt, by the time I was flying home last Saturday, I was like, I feel like it's been a long trip. It's been a long way to go. Luckily, the airline was kind enough to upgrade me to first class the whole leg home from Salt Lake City to Denver, Denver to Baltimore. They upgraded me to first class. So I was like, oh, well, that's very nice of you. I certainly appreciate that. So, and that's one thing that I no longer have to worry so much about. Like for all until this year, I've always had to worry about making miles, making status. Like every year you're chasing it, right? Because you have to chase your status in order to maintain status. Last February, when I went to Ireland, I finally crossed the major milestone that I had been hoping to reach for many years now. And in the United world, that's the 1 million mile mark. So once you make 1 million miles, you then are awarded lifetime gold status, which is the second tier in United's program. But that is the tier that's the tier that's mattered the most in my world, because when you're gold status, you can, if you're flying on an international itinerary, you will then get access to the different airline lounges, which just gives you a little bit more comfort as you're traveling. So depending on the airline, you can have, there'll be food, there'll be showers. Some airlines will offer you a smoking room where I can go and have a cigar in between flights. And then after that cigar is finished, I can jump in the shower, change, and be fresh for the next leg. Brojo's joining us. Gen X, the BS. Hi, Pete. New sub here. Coffee lovers here at the 420. Well, nice to have you, man. Nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. I know that maybe some of the tags on the show say Pete. I did try to change all of them. We were going to be down at Capital Cigar tonight, but we were not able to make it there for a variety of different reasons. So I was not able to go and hang out with Pete tonight. We'll get a chance to hang out with him at some point in the future. We are having one of Pete's PCA 2023 Toros that from last year. It's been a fantastic smoke this entire time. Really great flavor, really good draw, really just beautiful cigar. Very good plus. So welcome. Good to see you. Right now we're just out here with a dying fire, but that's all right. That's all right. So how's everyone's cigars doing? Brojo, if you're out there, let me know. Let us know if you're outside smoking, where you're smoking. We'd like to know who's out smoking, what you're smoking, and if you're having any kind of libations with it. I'm personally having this Ethiopian coffee from a place called Dukamo Rumudamu that we brewed with the Stanley pour over camp set that has been very good the entire time. It's actually still pretty hot. Like this thermal mug, even though it's metal, has maintained its heat. It does have a cap on it, so that's kind of kept the heat from dissipating out the top. It's been very good the whole time. And Steven says Rico Ben's breaded steak sandwich is stellar. Oh, world famous. You have to try it, or you're truly missing out. You have to try it. I guarantee it will put what you thought is great sandwich will raise. Oh, all right, Steven. All right. I'm presuming that Rico Ben's is in Phoenix. I need to get out there. That was my thing when I was in when I was planning the trip. You know, I was thinking maybe I really wanted to work in a trip south from Vegas to um, to hang out in Phoenix, and then to go down to Tucson to go see Hoon from Hoon's Coffee, and then one of my buddies from Hawaii. He now lives in Aho, and I was thinking maybe I should just go if I could jump down there and go see it. But then I just didn't have the extra days. Maybe next year, if I go to NAB next year in Vegas, then I'll work in the Arizona. I did happen to drive through Arizona a little bit. When you take the 15 north out of Vegas to go to Utah, it actually cuts across the northwestern corner of Arizona, and I was like, oh, Arizona, all right, excellent. And then I was thinking, because I was stopping in St. George to visit a friend that lives there. My original plan was to go by Hurricane, which is just the next town over, up the I-15, because Matt from Matt's Off-Road Recovery is based there, and I was thinking maybe I can swing by and like check out their place. But at the end of the day, I didn't leave my friend's house until like 6 p.m. I'm sure that Mass was closed. And then I still had a 6-hour drive to Salt Lake City. I didn't get to my hotel until like midnight. I was so tired. But I did smoke a bunch of cigars along the way, at least 2 cigars. That's one thing I like enjoy, that you get to smoke cigars as you drive. Makes it easier. Oh, it's in Chicago. 252 West 26th Street in Chicago. Okay, Rico Bennis. I'll remember that. I'll put that on my Google Maps. I keep a whole bunch of pins that of places that I want to check out, so that whenever I go to someplace, I can look and see. Oh, I got all these green pins that say I want to visit. Like when I arrived in Las Vegas, I was looking at my map and I saw this one pin. I was like, oh, what is this place? It looks like, oh, somewhere along the way, I noted that I wanted to check out this birria taco joint. So I was like, all right, let me go there. So first, I got to the hotel, checked in at 9:30. Luckily, they let me check into my room. I didn't have to leave my bags. Jumped in a taxi cab and went up to this place that did birria tacos. Had the roasted goat, and not they weren't tacos per se. I guess they're tacos per se, but they give you like this whole like plate of roasted goat with a bunch of like tortillas and like some salsas, and you're like, oh, just lop them on. It was really delicious, really, really great. And Brian says, my relatives asked if I wanted to spend a week in Puebla, but coffee is not part of, if you, I think any time to go to Mexico is a good time. And if you have an invitation to go stay in Puebla, you should definitely go right away. Go right. Actually, and we can look up this guy, Carlos. He's the guy that does the meticulous coffee espresso makers. I think he's based there. So the company, you can probably check out his stuff. And I'm sure there's a bunch of coffee shops to check out there um, in Puebla. But of course, the food, Puebla, amazing, wonderful stuff down there. That should definitely go. Should definitely go. And Steven says, my buddy from Chicago brings me back Rico Bennis. Went, oh man, I will add that. I will add Rico Bennis. I went to the big thing for me when I went to Vegas. There was normally I'll try to go to a place called Lotus of Siam. Really great Thai food in Vegas, like one of the best in America. But it's really gotten very popular over the years. Now it's this big, like it's a massive restaurant. It's still very good. But this time there's a restaurant from Hawaii that they opened the first location outside of Hawaii. A company called Zippy's, and I was like, oh man. My friend Genevieve, she was like, I called her up and said, hey, I'm coming to town. Let's get together. She's like, all right, where do you want to go? I said, I only want to go to Zippy's. That's the only place I want to go. I want to go there for dinner and breakfast. So we went to dinner there. Next day, I went back for breakfast. I was like, okay, good. I got my feel. Brian says it's for charitable work in Puebla, but would have to do. But yeah, even though if you're doing like those kind of things, that's what I try to do when I'm visiting places for work kind of stuff. I'll try to tack on a day or two extra, just to go hang out and check out whatever is in town. I think that's a nice way to do it. And it doesn't cost you that much. Maybe an extra day at a hotel if you need to stay at one. Like my trip to Salt Lake City was really just about taking a couple extra days to go visit other places. Because I'm doing the two trade shows. I was like, well, I might as well go and check out these other things. So we're almost to the end of this PCA 2023 from Tatuaje. Really very enjoyable. Gosh, it's really been an enjoyable cigar. And I've had a few, more than a few cigars lately that have not been as enjoyable. So this is really a nice treat to have. I didn't get to smoke too much during my trip. Like there was no place. I didn't really have time to go for cigars in Chicago. Some of my friends and I talked about going to the Biggs Mansion, but we just couldn't make it work out. Things are so busy at that show. And then I went to Vegas, but I was able in Vegas to go visit a couple of the shops out there. Went the first night I was in went to a place called En Fuego, which is this kind of like local homegrown kind of shop, a little bit, kind of like very homey, very kind of nice, but very local, very kind of like people are a little bit insular. And then my friend, turns out one of my friends that works out there, he was like, I smoke cigars. Like, really? You smoke cigars? All these years we've known each other, you never told me this? So I was like, let's go out to have a cigar the next night. So we went to a place called Triple Crown, which is south of the Strip, south of Mandalay Bay, in a shopping area called Town Center. Really nice place, like nice shop. It's one of these places that have nice seating, nice environment. They have a bar, full bar. So we had some drinks, we had some cigars, really had a great time. I had this cigar from a company called Stallone. That was really great. Really enjoyed that cigar. So had a nice time there. I went to a couple places there. And then, of course, I had that cigar with you guys last Thursday from Salt Lake City. And then the 2 or 3 cigars on the road trip to Salt Lake from Vegas. And one of the nice things that I never thought about is and I might have mentioned this last week, but as I was driving from Vegas to St. George and then onwards into the evening, this desert landscape just incredibly gorgeous. Like I was like super stunned. I was like, wow, like buttes. I've never seen buttes. It's the first time. I was like, wow, look at that. That's amazing. These mountains, just immaculate mountains. And then when you're in Salt Lake City, the mountains are so large and they're still snow capped. I was like, wow, there's still snow here. It's like one of them, like in the distance from downtown Salt Lake, it just looked like it was piled on with snow. I was like, oh my gosh, man, look at that. I have another YouTube buddy that lives in Park City. I'd messaged him before my trip. I said, hey, maybe you have time to get together? He was like, yeah, let me know if you have time. I was like, I just didn't have the time to break away to get to Park City. And Park City is maybe like an hour away from Salt Lake. Brian says, I tuned in late. Can I still purchase that cigar? You know what? I'm trying to think where I picked it up from. I think I picked it up at Raul's at Tobacco. I think it's still there. It has this tag on it. I don't remember if this is Raul's tag or not. Oh, my fingers are starting to burn. It's about $17 or $18. Who is this? What cigar shop is this tag from? I think it's I think it might be Raoul's, but I could be wrong. I know I'm familiar with this tag. I just can't remember exactly where I picked it up. But it's really good. It's really quite enjoyable. All right, I think we're pretty much done because my fingers are burning. Like they're pretty burning. Maybe a couple more puffs. Let's say a couple more puffs to pull it out of it. Yeah, that's good. Toss that in the fire. All right, excellent. How's our coffee doing? The Ethiopia Rumudamu. Still good. God, that is good. All right, so let's have a look at our scoring here. I think it's been very consistent, 8.5 for flavor and for body. So we're talking 17, 17, 17. Burn and drawn, man. I did have one touch up, but I think that might have been because I was talking a lot. I'm going to say burn and draw 8.75. Consistency has been excellent. So I'm going to say 9 for that. 17.75. And then let's say overall, I'm going to say 8.5. Very good plus. So let's see. We've got 17, 24, 41, 49.5. Is that right? I don't think that's right. Let me double check this. I think my numbers are off. 17 and 17 is 24, plus 17 is 41, plus 8.5 is 49.5. 49.5 plus 17.75. 2.5 carry the 1. 7 carry the 1. 67.25. 67 plus 8. 75.75. Is that right? I think it's 75.75, which seems a little bit low to me. I will recalculate this before I put it into our database later after we're done here tonight. Brian says, I can't believe we're at show 189. I know, we're almost there, man. Almost there, 189. We're coming down to 200. And speaking of 200, George had this idea a couple weeks ago when we had the show that he was talking about. What if we were to go up to have the 200th event at the tobacco shop in Ridgewood, New Jersey? And I think that might be kind of a nice time. What do you guys think about that? I'm interested in what you think. Yeah, I know, I hear you on that. That's why I'm a little bit reticent to say that it really is 75. I mean, it seems like that's low because we have 8.5. So one, two. So there's a lot of 8.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, 8.5 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35. 7 times 8. Darn it. 8 times 8 is 64, right? I'm so bad. I'll just use a calculator. I'm so bad at trying to figure this out in the dark. Anyway, I will, like I said, I will revisit this and recalculate correctly. All right, so I guess that's it for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Good to see all of you guys tonight. Back again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time with another cigar. I got the list of the cigars down in the description below, so you can follow along. And if you can get the cigars, that'd be great. Love to smoke them with you and hear what your thoughts are. But all right, so that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be back again, and hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hope it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to get warmer. Next week it should get warmer. I think next week, though, I might end up in the Boston area. So we'll have a little bit of a different show then. But until next time, I hope you have a great one, and see you then.